What's going on, everybody? Josh Engleman for Awesemo.com, and I am back with my NFL DFS top fives for week 7 in football. I love it. We're already at week 7. It's craziness. Anyway, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter, @Josh Engleman. Hop in the comments section underneath this video. Let me know who your favorite plays are for this week. And finally, shout out to Jock Market for being the presenting sponsor of this video. Use the promo code Awesemo when you sign up at Jock Market. Get up to a $50 instant match deposit bonus. That's a 100% match. If you put in 50, you're getting 50 back. You can see the defenses on the screen right now. I don't want to talk about them because they're defenses. Now we're on to the top 5 tight ends. First up at number 5, we're going to Mike Gesicki. He's 6K, projected for 9 fantasy points. Miami taking on Atlanta, 2.5-point dogs, 47-point total. This is a number 29 ranked defense, so it's a pretty nice spot. The problem is Miami's offense ranks 24th at PFF. No chance to go for north of 25, although 0 is not really real, but you don't expect it. 9% likelihood for Gesicki to be in the optimal. If you're playing Mike Gesicki, you're probably playing a Dolphin stack, and you're probably looking to save money at tight end. I think that's all pretty reasonable. At number 4, we've got Dallas Goedert, 5,900, projected for 9.5 fantasy points, and doesn't have to worry about Zach Ertz any longer. 3-point dogs against Las Vegas, 18th ranked offense, number 9 defense. Pretty similar to Gesicki in this spot. You're going here if you want a relatively cheap Eagles stack, or if you just need to punt tight end and get someone relatively cheap. 11% chance for Goddard to be in the optimal. Now, this is another easy one to get to, but it's for a completely different reason. Tyler Higbee, 5,500, projected for 8.7 fantasy points. The matchup here, though, 16.5-point favorites against Detroit. The number 10 offense against the absolute worst defense at PFF. 12% likelihood for Higbee to be in the optimal. I just like tossing him into my Rams stack. So if you've already got Cooper Kupp, bring Higbee along for the ride. If you're going to Woods to try to be different, bring Higbee along for the ride. If you're stacking up the Lions for reasons undetermined, bring Higbee along for the ride. There's just so much expected scoring for the Rams that at 5,500, I think the floor for Higbee is a lot higher than it normally is. And finally, we are paying up at tight end, 8,200 for Travis Kelce, projected for 14.5. Kansas City, 4.5-point favorites with a 57.5-point game total here against Tennessee. 2 elite offenses against 2, whatever the opposite of elite means for defenses. Both teams stink defensively. 28th for Tennessee at PFF. 8% chance for Kelce to go for over 25, 14% chance to be in the optimal. All that sounds great, but he's not number 1. Because for some reason, Darren Waller is 6,800 and twice as likely to be in the optimal as Kelce. Projected for almost 14 fantasy points. The number 9 offense is a 3-point favorite against Philly, 48.5-point total, 5% chance to go for more than 25, and a 28% likelihood to be in the optimal lineup. If you're getting any tight end this week and you just need an individual one-off, and ownership is not a part of your discussion, Darren Waller is very clearly the number 1 tight end on this slate. Now at wide receiver, coming in at number 5, I want Robert Woods. He's 6,800, projected for 13.3 fantasy points, and honestly, gets to take on a Detroit Lions team that sucks. I don't know how else to say it. They're 16.5-point favorites in Detroit. They're 16.5-point favorites against Detroit. 50.5-point total. The number 10 offense, which isn't really important for this discussion, against the number 32 defense, which is important in this discussion. 4% chance for Woods to go for more than 25, 17% likelihood to be in the optimal. Robert Woods looks great, but he's not even the best wide receiver on his own team. DJ Moore in at number 4. Hey, that rhymed. 7,700, projected for 15 fantasy points. Carolina taking on the New York Giants. 43-point total is pretty gross, but so is the Giants defense, which ranks 27th at PFF. 12% likelihood for DJ Moore to go for more than 25 fantasy points, and a 17% likelihood for him to be in the optimal. I think he looks good, but now we're taking a slight step up in tier to number 3. And that number 3 is the pay-up option of Davante Adams. He is 9K, projected for 19 fantasy points. The Packers are 7.5-point favorites against the Washington football team, 48.5-point total. The number 2 offense for the Packers. The number 17 defense, which was certainly supposed to be better as we worked our way into this season. 24% of the time, Davante Adams is going to have more than 25 fantasy points, and you're probably going to wish you had him, because 20% of the time, this dude is in the optimal lineup. I don't have anything else to say about Davante Adams. You guys all know that he's incredible. So are these next 2 guys. At number 2, we're going to Tyreek Hill, 8,500, projected for 17.5 fantasy points. Tennessee is not a favorite here. They are actually 4.5-point underdogs at home against Kansas City. Monster total, 57.5 points. The number 5 offense against the number 28 defense. Yikes. 20% likelihood that Hill goes for more than 25. 22% chance that he's simply in the optimal. You guys all know the ceilings. Good luck figuring out who you want between Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, and my number 1. You might just have to get 2 of them. The number 1 wide receiver on this slate is Cooper Kupp, 8,800, projected for 18.7 fantasy points, 16.5-point favorites. We've talked about it already. And we're going to talk about it again at running back, I'm sure. This Rams team is set up to score a ton of points on Detroit. I don't know how they keep this one competitive, but who the hell knows? Anything can happen on the football field. 25% likelihood for Kupp to be over 25 fantasy points. 23% likelihood he's in the optimal. That outpaces everybody here at wideout. We have 3 legitimate high-end options that you can pay up for at wideout. And honestly, the most likely scenario here is probably that none of them end up in an optimal lineup. That's what's crazy about NFL DFS. Now on to the running backs. Kicking it off at number 5, we've got Chuba Hubbard. He's 7,300, projected for 14.5 fantasy points. Really nice spot against the Giants. The problem is Carolina is as bad offensively as the Giants are defensively. And a 43-point game total doesn't breed a lot of confidence for fantasy points. But I like the price and I like the roll. 7.5% chance for Hubbard to go for over 25. 17% chance that he's in the optimal. So you might not even need all 25. Something in that 22-23 range is probably going to get you there if you have Hubbard. At number 4, we've got Darrell Williams, 6,700, projected for 13.7 fantasy points in the monster game this week, Kansas City and Tennessee. 4.5-point favorites in Tennessee. You guys know the matchup here. It's scary. It feels like 10 different guys could score a touchdown for the Chiefs. You're going to need at least one from Darrell Williams in order to make this one work. 25 or more fantasy points happens 5% of the time. 19% likelihood that Williams makes it into the optimal. If he gets in the end zone, like most guys, you're going to be happy you have him. Number 3, we've got 7K Leonard Fournette, projected for 14.5 fantasy points against the Bears. The Bucs are 12.5-point favorites, 47-point total. They're the number 1 offense at PFF, going up against the number 22 defense. 7% of the time, he's going to score 25 fantasy points. 20% of the time, he can be in the optimal lineup. This setup looks great. If Fournette gets in the end zone in the first half, I think that plays a bigger role for him in the second half. Either way, 7K for Lenny Fournette in week 7 in the NFL. I am in. Save some salary at the number 2 spot. Go to Devontae Booker, projected for 12.5 fantasy points at just 5,800. Taking on Carolina in a really nice spot for the Giants. This is the number 24 defense. Not a lot to worry about here. And I think the Giants offense is better than the Carolina offense. Only a 2% chance for Booker to go for more than 25, but you don't totally need it. 21% likelihood that he is in the optimal. He's the best pay down option you'll find this week. But we close it out at running back. Number 1, obviously, Darrell Henderson, 8K, projected for 16.4 fantasy points. And the dream matchup, the worst defense you're going to find. I've already talked about it for Tyler Higbee. I talked about it for Robert Woods. I talked about it for Cooper Kupp. I assume that I will be talking about it for Matt Stafford when we get to the quarterbacks. 18% chance for Henderson to score more than 25 fantasy points. 23% chance that he's in the optimal lineup. If you're playing any running back individually and you want to make a bet this week, Darrell Henderson is the guy to do it on. Now, we got to talk a little bit about quarterbacks, but first, one last reminder, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Head to Twitter, follow me at Josh Engleman. Hop in the comments underneath this video and let me know who your favorite plays are on FanDuel this week. And one last time, shout out to Jock Market for being the presenting sponsor of this video. Jalen Hurts is up first at number 5 at quarterback, 8,300, projected for 22.5, and I'm cheering for him a lot this week. I mentioned it in the DraftKings video, but he is starting for my wife this week on her bye because she normally has Josh Allen, so go Jalen Hurts. The number 18 offense isn't all that ideal. The number 9 defense, still not all that ideal, but 48.5-point total. Hurts only scores more than 20 fantasy points. It seems like he does it every week. He's got a 30.5% chance to score more than 25. Just an 8% chance to be optimal individually. Nothing too crazy. Quarterbacks are always pretty flat, although it starts to pick up as we get ahead of Hurts. I told you he'd be coming up. Number 4, Matt Stafford, 8,100, projected for 22.5 fantasy points. I can't think of any other creative ways to talk about how much the Rams should smack the Lions this week. I think I've said them all for everybody else involved with the Rams. So 31% likelihood for Matt Stafford to score more than 25 fantasy points. 11% chance that he is in the optimal and likely to be stacked pretty aggressively with multiple different pass catchers. It's just a shame that Detroit doesn't have anyone better than Swift as a bringback, but this game might just be a full-on drubbing. We're talking, 35 to 15? That's a 20-point line and a 50-point total. So somewhere in that neighborhood, 34-16, 33-17. There we go. We're about there now. It's going to be a beating. Be on the side of the Rams. Or you can bet on the legs and potentially the arm of Lamar Jackson, 8,400, projected for 24 fantasy points. 6.5-point favorites for Baltimore, 46.5-point total. It's the number 7 offense going up against the number 20 defense. 44% likelihood that Lamar Jackson scores more than 25 fantasy points, but still just a 13% chance to be the optimal quarterback. Again, it's not all that important at QB. You want the correlation. And there are plenty of options that you can go to for Lamar Jackson if you need to. Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews. We can go even deeper if we need. Or just play naked Lamar and hope that he scores 2 rushing touchdowns. At number 2, we've got Kyler Murray, 8,700, projected for 24.5 fantasy points, and gets a date with Houston, who stinks. 17.5-point favorites for Arizona, 47.5-point game total. The number 8 offense against the number 30 defense. I think it's realistic that Kyler Murray doesn't play this entire game. 46.5-point chance, or 46.5% chance to go for more than 25. 14% likelihood to be in the optimal. I'm worried about Arizona just smacking Houston around so bad that Kyler Murray doesn't play the fourth quarter. Anybody's liable to get into the end zone here, but I would like to still bet on Kyler Murray's ceiling and his legs. We close it out at number 1, $8,800 Pat Mahomes, projected for 25 fantasy points. It's the best fantasy matchup on the day. 57.5-point total means we are expecting points on points on points. 54% of the time, Pat Mahomes scores more than 25 fantasy points. If this dude gets in on the ground for himself, look out. 19% chance he is in the optimal, well ahead of anybody else on this slate, and enough to make him my number 1 quarterback. Alrighty, folks, that will do it. Those are my NFL DFS top 5s for week 7. There's a DraftKings version of this video around here somewhere, so go check it out. Join me Sunday morning, 9 a.m. for the NFL First Look with Adam Scher. Plus, Contenders videos will be out that morning for Sunday Night Football. Good luck this weekend. Win some money. I will talk to you guys again Sunday morning.